Are you struggling to lose weight or to see muscle tone and definition, but you feel like you're doing all the work? There are 6 reasons why that might be true. I was just there having a conversation with a client, but I'm going to break down the 6 things that I asked her in order to solve the problem of why she can't gain muscle and therefore lose fat. So, number one, things that a lot of women are tolerating in midlife: constipation or diarrhea, and or vacillating between the two of them, which is often called irritable bowel syndrome or IBS. What I want you to know is, first of all, if you're constipated and you're not going poo every single day, what we're doing is having toxins sit in our large intestine for a long period of time. And what ends up happening is we reabsorb the toxins as they sit there. So our body does a great job of potentially removing them and getting it ready for evacuation. But if it sits in your gut longer than it should, you're actually reabsorbing some of those. So you don't feel great, but also you don't feel motivated to go exercise, to really do movement, because you feel like you're carrying around, and some people will describe this as bloated, but it really is, you just have a lot of extra poop you're full of. Sorry to say, but I want you to think about this. So going poop at least once a day is really key to health, but it's also a sign that potentially you're not absorbing great nutrients from all the foods that you're eating. So if you're trying to eat really healthy, you're eating the protein, you're eating a diverse group of micronutrient dense vegetables and other things, you may not actually be absorbing those properly, because the constipation and or the diarrhea both are signs that something isn't quite right in your digestive tract. And if we don't have that, we don't have the building blocks for muscle and for the energy that you actually need to feel like, I can get a good workout. After I get a good workout, I feel energized. You should not feel wiped out. So constipation and diarrhea are 2 big ones. And if you go back and forth for a while, you're feeling constipated, and then whether on its own it resolves and ends up, though, in going all the time or going too much, or you resort to having to take something artificial to get things going and it ends up in diarrhea, neither one of those is a great situation. You really need to deal with that, because without the building blocks for the muscle, no matter how much resistance training or other exercise you're doing, you're not going to see the good results. So next is gas and bloating. Now those, gas we tend to do something about because it's super irritating, it's super embarrassing. If you can't even stand to be in a room with yourself, going for a drive with somebody or your significant other, or sharing a bed, and under the covers, if you can't control it, you can't. But that is feedback. It's data telling you that something is not agreeing with your system. And generally, that might send you to, maybe I need a probiotic, or I need this, or I need that. But I'm going to suggest to you as a functional health coach that you put the brakes on that and say, don't just remove things, because it could also be kale. It could be for you that it's nuts and seeds. There can be a number of things that are unique to you and to what is going on. So some of the better ways to deal with gas and bloating are, yes, you can remove the culprit, but just avoiding the food doesn't resolve the reason. Why can't you break this down? Something in your gut microbiome, so all of the little bacteria, there's good bacteria, bad bacteria. Oddly enough, we need both. And we don't want to just go to the store and say, get a probiotic, because you could be feeding the bad ones. So you might definitely do some live cultured yogurt. You might have a few forkfuls of sauerkraut, because those are naturally pre or postbiotics that can help the gut. But the better thing to do right away would be potentially go and get tested. You do a stool test in order to do that. When you get the stool test back, it will tell you you're a plus this, you're a minus that. Maybe you have too much of something you shouldn't. You have too little of something else. Now you can get specific and say, okay, I need to go and get this, this, and this. And you might want a functional health coach or your functional practitioner to help you do that, but you will have the results so you're not just shooting blanks and at risk for shooting in and putting in the wrong things to feed the bad guys. So it could make it worse if you're taking the wrong supplement. A couple of other things that I've had a lot of clients have good luck with in terms of constipation, diarrhea, gas, or bloating is increasing the amount of stomach acid. So statistics recently, I heard someone say this, I don't know this myself, I haven't seen the science, but we only have about 40% of the stomach acid. That is a good thing, by the way, it's not a negative, when we're 40 compared to when we're 20. Now, I don't know that one, but I do know this. From statistics that I reported, and You Still Got It Girl, the book, this is at about age 70 compared to when we were 20, and it was looking at a man, but a man had like 10% of the stomach acid that we had in our 20s when he was 70, right? So looking at by comparison, on average, what happens is our stomach acid diminishes. Most of the problems, even with GERD or acid reflux, are not about too much stomach acid, it's about too little. We actually need more to break down that food so that we can break it into small particles, we can digest it, then it can be absorbed so that the good things in the food we're eating actually get absorbed by us. And again, we know from a very recent study that adults, older adults specifically, for muscle mass and for strength, we need protein and adequate micronutrient density. Now, you may be eating a very diverse diet, but again, if you're not breaking it down, if it's not getting absorbed by you, it's not counting. Your body isn't counting it. So that could be alone in the way of you getting the results you want. So use constipation, diarrhea, gas, or bloating. And even if you think, but that's always been me, that's my normal, poop every day. Otherwise, it's really not normal. You've just settled for it and you don't have to. And you'll be amazed how good you feel when you are going on a regular basis if that is your issue. So there are two other things that I would watch out for. And one is after a meal, you still feel hungry. So you've had a good meal, you've had a protein, you've had the right amount of carbohydrate, you've had a little bit of fat in it. No one else that you ate with is hungry, but you were hungry within an hour, and it might be 2 hours. But when you're experiencing that and it's like, I just had a good meal, why am I still like having these hunger signs? Not necessarily stomach growling, but just that, I could eat again. I'm like gnawing kind of hunger. That can be blood sugar issues or insulin resistance. So a blood sugar issue is kind of an insulin resistant kind of thing. It means that as we turn the corner on 40, we hit perimenopause, we have less estrogen. That impacts our ability to monitor and control or stabilize our blood sugar levels. When we have a higher blood sugar in response to any kind of stress or any kind of food, given this is happening post meals, what happens is our insulin levels has to go up. And insulin resistance just means we are not the same amount of insulin helping to get that blood sugar put away and out of bloodstream, but into cells isn't there. So it takes more and more insulin. Unfortunately, that puts us in fat storage. So that's not helping us get more glycogen into the muscle for storage and be able to see it and move on. So we're getting more lean and not more fat. So that's an issue if you're getting hungry after a meal, but you've eaten a good meal. Now, if you skip or skimp, That's outside of the lines, okay? So, but if you've had a good meal, that's one of the things to watch for. The second thing can also be happening at the same time, but if you have this undue fatigue, like after you eat, you really want to lay down, like within an hour or so, you feel like you can put your head on the desk. That is another sign that potentially you have some blood sugar regulation or insulin resistance, that going for a walk can help, right? So after a meal, within about 30 minutes, go for a 10 or 15-minute walk. That can help control your blood sugar levels. That alone may help get rid of that feeling hungry and or feeling fatigued after a meal. Supporting yourself, moving regularly throughout the day can help with that too. But look for those 6 signs: constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, that fatigue after a meal, and or that, I'm hungry fairly soon after a meal, but nobody else is. Like, I'm constantly hungry. And you have to look at your meals. You have to make sure, do I have a 5 or 6 ounce serving of animal protein? If you're eating plants, you've got to have the equivalent of 35, 40 grams of protein at that meal, because protein offers satiety. You got to have a little bit of fat at that meal. It's very easy to do if you're doing animal protein because it's built in. You don't have to add fat necessarily. And a little bit of the right kind of carbohydrate actually helps us have great satiety after meals. If you're missing some of those things, like you're going totally keto and your body seems not to like it, like you're not having any carbohydrates that easily turn to sugar in your meal, but you're still feeling hungry or you're still feeling tired after a meal, that's suggesting maybe you need some carbohydrate, and you can try that too. I hope that's been helpful. But look at those signs, realize that they are very linked to your ability to increase your lean muscle tissue, therefore decreasing your fat. And if those things are off, start looking at what would be the first step that I want to take to see if I can improve. Let me know what your questions are. Don't forget to subscribe. You can hit the bell if you want to be notified when I release a new video.